A piercing sound cut through the hall as a crystal glass crashed to the floor, shattering into hundreds of glittering shards. In that instant of chaos, Clarissa Ashford, 48, famed for her icy eyes and haughty smile, shoved Amelia Williams backward. The young woman stumbled, her simple black dress catching on the champagne table. The entire ballroom froze as though waiting for the curtain to rise on another act. "Remove this trash before she disgraces us all," Clarissa declared, her words slicing through the gilded air of the Metropolitan Museum. Amelia faltered, her face calm only minutes before, now reflected shock. Her trembling hand clutched the torn fabric of her dress, yet no hand reached out to help. Instead, Tristan, Clarissa's 24-year-old son, smirked as he raised his phone, angling it toward Amelia's face. "Here it is, golden content for TikTok," he muttered, pressing record. The poor girl who thought she belonged here. A sharp laugh echoed behind him. Lila, the Ashfords' 22-year-old daughter, snatched the ticket from Amelia's hand and raised it like a trophy. "Look, everyone! A cheap disguise with a fake invitation." Rip! The ticket tore in half, its white fragments drifting to the marble floor like scattered snow. The atmosphere shifted from lively to strangely still. Every eye turned to Amelia. Some stifled laughter behind their hands. Others raised their phones to record, while a few guests frowned with visible unease. Surrounded, Amelia sank to her knees, her hand trembling as she gathered each fragment of the torn paper, the only proof she had of her rightful presence. Clarissa seized the moment, turning dramatically to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an intruder in our midst. There are still those who do not understand the meaning of exclusivity." Her voice carried the theatricality of an actress in her grandest scene. Murmurs swept the hall. Some guests whispered while filming. "Where did she get the courage to come in here? She looks like a fraud. Free entertainment, right before our eyes." Amelia remained silent. Her face bore no tears, no protest, only a strange resolve, like a veil concealing something deeper. Among the crowd, one elderly patron of the museum frowned and shifted his camera from Amelia to Clarissa. A young doctor, Sarah Washington, leaned toward her husband and whispered, "They've gone too far." But Clarissa believed herself untouchable. She twirled the diamond bracelet on her wrist, her tone warm, yet dripping with mockery. "Do not mistake silence for dignity. It only proves she knows she does not belong." Tristan chimed in eagerly, like a host feeding an audience. "Guys, the video is blowing up. 15,000 views in less than 5 minutes. His phone buzzed non-stop, TikTok notifications clashing with bursts of laughter. The grand hall became a theater, where the guests were not only spectators, but participants, liking, commenting, and sharing Lila's live stream. To them, Amelia was not a person, but instant entertainment. Slowly, Amelia rose. In her hands, the torn scraps of paper were carefully arranged, as if to preserve a last shred of dignity. Her eyes swept the circle of faces, not with rage, not with despair, but silently, as though etching every smirk and every glance into memory. Deep within her gaze, a spark flared. Clarissa did not notice. Tristan did not notice. Lila did not notice. But a few of the older guests nearby caught it, the glimmer of a reversal about to come. At that moment, the crowd still believed Amelia was just a poor imposter. But within hours, the truth would surface. She was no intruder, but someone with the power to decide the fate of the Ashford family itself. And tonight, those who mocked and filmed her humiliation would become unwilling witnesses to a reckoning that would shake the very foundations of New York high society. Laughter erupted, no longer scattered but rising in unison, echoing through the grand hall like a cruel symphony. The crystal chandeliers reflected down on faces framed by tuxedos and glittering gowns, people who believed they had the right to judge. Amelia Williams stood in the center of the circle, looking like prey cornered in a cage. Gleaming phones were thrust toward her. Every tap of a screen, every recording, every live stream, another blade stabbing at her dignity. Voices spilled over one another. Did she think this was some charity fair? Look at that dress, like it came straight from a discount rack. The joke of the century, the media will eat this up. Clarissa Ashford lifted her chin, her crimson lips curved into a merciless smile. She gestured grandly like a director orchestrating the scene, fanning the frenzy. Do you see, ladies and gentlemen? When these doors open too wide, anyone can claim to be a guest. A tragedy for a place meant to symbolize exclusivity. But Tristan's eyes never left his phone as the view count on TikTok leapt by the second, from 15,000 to 28, then to 50,000. Sweat of excitement glistened on his forehead as Amelia's humiliation became his golden ticket. "Now this is viral content," he shouted, zooming in on Amelia's face to capture her every tremor. Lila, unwilling to be outdone, turned her camera to the crowd and cried out, "All of Met Gala will know tonight that someone tried to fake an invitation. Pathetic." Meanwhile, Amelia bent quietly to gather the last scraps of paper, her hands trembling, but her eyes unwavering. She did not argue, did not beg, did not defend herself. Her silence only made Clarissa more irritated, as though the script she had written was missing its climax. "Picking up your own trash?" Clarissa sneered. "Good. At least you know your place here." Another wave of laughter rippled through the room, but this time it was uneven. There were forced chuckles mixed with uneasy glances. Among them, Mr. Morrison. Husband of Judge Catherine Morrison lifted his phone, but his lens focused not on Amelia, but on Clarissa and Tristan. His expression was tight with disapproval, deep lines furrowing his brow. Nearby, Dr. Sarah Washington leaned toward her husband. "They are being cruel. This is no longer a misunderstanding. It's public humiliation." He gripped her hand tightly but whispered back, "In a circle like this, even if we intervene, nothing will change." The crowd pressed closer. Gowns and polished shoes formed a glittering noose around Amelia. The flashing phones gleamed like the eyes of predators. At the center, Amelia stood straight, clutching the torn scraps of paper to her chest as though they were treasure. Not a word of protest. It was her stillness that was most unsettling, like the surface of a lake before a storm. Clarissa did not notice. Tristan did not notice. Lila was too engrossed in her live stream. But some guests began to shift uncomfortably. Whispers spread. "I think they've gone too far. Aren't the Ashfords making fools of themselves?" At that moment, a figure in a black uniform entered, Chief of Security James Patterson. Behind him followed the museum director, Dr. Helen Harper, her face drawn with tension. The hall fell silent for a breath. Many assumed the finale was near, that the young woman would be dragged out, restoring order to the opulent auction. But they did not know that this moment was the beginning of a seismic reversal. For Amelia was not a poor impostor, but the heir to an empire with the power to rewrite the fate of the Ashford family, and the very room gilded in gold. Tonight, those recording videos to mock her would unknowingly capture the verdict against their own arrogance, and the spectacle they thought was entertainment would become historic evidence. The sharp echo of shoes striking marble cut through the tension. James Patterson, head of museum security, stepped into the circle. His eyes scanned every face before settling on Amelia, who still clutched the torn ticket fragments in her hands as though they were treasure. Behind him appeared Dr. Helen Harper, the museum director, her expression taut, a tablet in her hands displaying the guest list. The mood in the hall shifted. The mocking laughter fell silent, replaced by a charged anticipation. Everyone thought this was it, the end of the spectacle, the impostor about to be escorted out. James stopped, bowed his head slightly toward Amelia, and spoke in a low, steady voice. "Miss, I need to reconfirm the status of your invitation for tonight." Before he could finish, Clarissa Ashford burst into shrill laughter, her voice slicing through the golden room like a knife. "James, you needn't trouble yourself. The evidence is right there at her feet. A fake ticket, cheap, probably printed somewhere in Queens. Surely you have better things to do than interrogate a liar." The crowd stirred with murmurs, some nodding in agreement. Phones lifted again, eager to capture the dramatic expulsion. Amelia raised her head. Her eyes were calm, yet deep, holding something unreachable. She did not argue, did not cry, did not defend herself. She simply stood there, her hands gripping the torn paper tightly. Dr. Harper glanced at her tablet, forcing her tone into neutrality. Williams Foundation registered a platinum table valued at $100,000. The guest list is still here. Tristan jumped in instantly, his voice dripping with mockery. "Anyone can steal a corporate name and slap it on a ticket. Right, Dad?" Robert Ashford, a man in his 50s in a perfectly tailored suit, finally emerged after finishing a call. His brow furrowed, his voice clipped. "What is this noise? Tomorrow at 9 a.m. I have a signing with Williams Tech, a $750 million deal, and I should be preparing." "You'll have time for your calls later," Clarissa cut in, her tone commanding. "Right now, we are facing a social emergency." A ripple of laughter broke out, some guests amused by her theatrical phrasing, as if she had just invented a new category of farce. Lila, still glued to her phone, thrust the camera close to Amelia's face, raising her voice for the tens of thousands watching her Instagram live. What more does she have to pretend? She clearly doesn't belong here. This is a charity gala, not a community center. The words pierced like arrows. The crowd laughed again, though faint whispers of dissent wove through. On the edge of the circle, Mr. Morrison, husband of Judge Catherine Morrison, lifted his phone, but his lens did not capture Amelia. It focused on Clarissa and Tristan, his face marked with disapproval, the eyes of a man who had witnessed too many trials of prejudice. He knew. Tonight, every word spoken here would serve as evidence. James Patterson looked around, sweat forming on his brow. He exhaled heavily, turning back to Amelia, his tone polite but strained. "Miss, may I see additional identification? It will help us resolve this quickly." But before Amelia could answer, Clarissa cut in again, relentless. "James, stop wasting time. The Ashford family has donated more than $2 million to this museum. Every painting on these walls carries our mark. Our word should be more than enough." She pointed directly at Amelia, her voice dripping with scorn as though delivering a sentence. "Look at her. A Target dress, Payless shoes, a handbag probably copied from Canal Street. This is a $10,000 a seat event. Do you really believe she has the right to stand here?" The crowd erupted like waves. Some laughed, some agreed, but furrowed brows began to appear. A young woman whispered under her breath, "This is getting ugly. This isn't security anymore. It's public humiliation." Amelia remained still. No reaction, no reply. Yet in that silence there was something unsettling, as if a storm was gathering just out of sight. Meanwhile, Robert's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up. Marcus Williams. Urgent. His brows knit. He hesitated, then pressed decline. A small decision, but one that would become the turning point that pushed the Ashford family into the abyss. A long silence hung in the air. Then, cutting through it like a blade, came Lila's sneer, caught perfectly by her phone's microphone. "There's no mistake here. She doesn't belong. This isn't a charity fair in some poor neighborhood." The live stream carried her words out into the world, pulling in tens of thousands of comments. On the glowing screen, the messages scrolled non-stop. "Security should drag her out right now. This is embarrassing to watch. Someone needs to help this girl understand her place." Tristan glanced at his phone and smirked. "We're already at 50,000 views. I've never seen a video blow up this fast." Amelia stood motionless, her hands gripping the shredded ticket pieces like a secret she refused to release. Her face was pale under the crystal lights, but her eyes shone, steady and unsettling. No anger, no protest, only a calm that made her tormentors uneasy. Clarissa stepped forward, her voice sharp and rising. "Do you see, ladies and gentlemen? This is the perfect example of delusion. She thinks silence makes her dignified, but in reality, it only proves she knows she does not belong." The murmurs swelled again, but not everyone joined in. A few guests shook their heads, faint traces of disapproval on their faces. At the back, Dr. Sarah Washington whispered to her husband, "They will not stop. This is no longer about a ticket check. It's torment." Charles squeezed her hand, his eyes scanning the circle. "It's hard to intervene. They've surrounded her like hunters around prey." Nearby, Mr. Morrison, husband of Judge Catherine Morrison, raised his phone but did not point it at Amelia. Instead, he recorded the Ashfords, every smirk, every cruel gesture, his seasoned eyes already drafting tomorrow's indictment. On Tristan's TikTok stream, the comments exploded. "This is content for the ages. Poor girl, but I can't look away. This is what a real social event looks like." Amelia drew a deep breath, standing tall, and then her voice rang out, low but clear, cutting through the chatter. "I understand. There has been some confusion about my presence tonight." Her words froze the circle for a few seconds. On Lila's Instagram Live, comments erupted. She dares to answer back. Listen to her voice, not even shaking. Lila snorted, shoving her camera closer. "There is no confusion. You don't belong here. That's all." From the guest rows, an older woman tilted her head and murmured to her companion, "That girl, there's something different about her. She doesn't look like someone faking for attention." But Clarissa allowed no room for doubt. She raised her hand like a host commanding the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, do not be deceived by her silence. This is not humility. This is farce. And I will not let it stain our gala." A ripple of applause followed, but now it was broken, mixed with glances of unease. Amelia's stillness and resolve, the very thing Clarissa mocked as delusion, was slowly shifting the mood of the room. At the edge of the crowd, Dr. Helen Harper stared at her tablet, her hands trembling as she tapped the screen again. The Williams Foundation remained listed as a platinum sponsor. A chill ran through her. Her instinct screamed that this was not what it seemed. Amelia's lips curved into the faintest smile, soft and fleeting, not defiant, not submissive, just enough for the observant to sense she still held a card unplayed. And when that card was revealed, every phone recording, every mocking gaze would be forced to face the truth. They had just made themselves witnesses to an inevitable downfall. The atmosphere in the hall stretched taut, like a violin string on the verge of snapping. James Patterson stood rigid, his face drawn with tension, while Dr. Helen Harper bent over her tablet, muttering as she checked the list again. Amelia remained silent, clutching the torn ticket fragments in her hands, her composure almost unreal. Then Clarissa shattered the silence with a sharp laugh. She stepped forward, twisting the diamond bracelet on her wrist, her shrill voice brimming with confidence. "James, we don't have time for this nonsense. The Ashford family has donated over $2 million to this museum. Isn't that enough? Our word should carry weight. Stop wasting time on a girl in a Target dress." The whispers surged at once. Many nodded, convinced money and influence had closed the matter. Others stayed quiet, lips pressed thin, unsettled by the chill that crept into the air. Tristan, still drunk on the glow of his phone, shouted gleefully, "Everyone! The video just passed 75,000 views. This is the pinnacle of delusion." He thrust the camera closer to Amelia's face, desperate to capture every flicker of emotion. But Amelia did not flinch. Her eyes shone steady and calm, as though she knew she had nothing to prove. Lila chimed in, streaming live on Instagram. "Look at that bag. A cheap knockoff from Canal Street. Who couldn't spot a fake?" The online audience erupted immediately. Exactly, clearly fake. What a social farce. Kick her out already. Robert Ashford stood off to the side, gripping his phone tightly. The screen glowed. Marcus Williams. Urgent. The 12th time that night. He hesitated, his expression faltering, but under Clarissa's insistent gaze, he clenched his jaw and pressed decline. A small decision, but in this room, it would soon become the greatest mistake of his life. Dr. Harper's hands trembled as she read from the tablet, her voice strained. "Williams Foundation is still confirmed as a platinum sponsor. A $100,000 contribution. Anyone can forge a foundation name. Tristan cut in, laughing with glee. Dad, tell them. You know corporate security better than anyone. Robert's brow furrowed, deep lines etching his forehead. Tomorrow I have a signing with Williams Tech. $750 million. That deal matters more. Robert! Clarissa snapped, her voice sharp as glass. Are you really going to let this trash ruin our night? This is a social emergency, not a business deal. That contract can wait until tomorrow. Tonight, it's the family's honor at stake. A ripple of laughter broke out, amused by the way she coined the phrase social emergency. But among the older guests, uneasy glances began to pass between them. Dr. Sarah Washington shook her head and whispered to her husband. Hearing them speak sends chills down my spine. This isn't prejudice anymore. It's naked arrogance. Meanwhile, Amelia quietly glanced at her phone inside her bag. The screen lit up with the words, Dad, Marcus Williams. She lifted her head, her gaze sweeping the circle without a word. And with that silence, she planted doubt in more than a few minds. Who was this girl, really? Clarissa believed she had locked the situation down, but she could not see that the very moment she wielded money as a weapon, the truth was already shifting beneath her feet, preparing to bring down the empire she thought untouchable. Whispers rippled through the gilded hall, the sound swelling from every corner. The glow of countless phones filled the space, turning what should have been a grand evening into a blinding web of light. Every expression, every word, every movement of Amelia was captured through dozens of lenses, no longer a private incident, but a public trial. Tristan trembled with excitement, his hands almost shaking. 90,000 views already. The comments are exploding. She's famous now. In the worst possible way. He shoved the camera closer to Amelia's face, desperate to capture panic. But her face remained composed, her eyes bright, unwavering. Amelia did not cry, did not rage, did not plead. It was that composure that unsettled some in the crowd. Her silence was not that of weakness, but of someone waiting for the right moment. Clarissa, oblivious to the shifting current, pressed harder. James, what are you waiting for? Remove her, right now, in front of everyone. We need transparency. Tonight, let the world see she is nothing but a fraud. Scattered applause broke out, sharp and awkward in the tightening atmosphere. One woman whispered to her companion, "Do they really want to turn this gala into a courtroom? It's grotesque." Dr. Sarah Washington could no longer contain herself. She stepped forward, her voice ringing clear. "Victoria, this is no longer about security. This is deliberate humiliation. This young woman has caused no disturbance. Your behavior is crossing the line." The hall shuddered at her words. Some guests nodded, their eyes softening toward Amelia. But Clarissa spun around, her gaze flashing. "Sarah, spare us your morality. We are protecting social standards. If you are too weak to understand that, perhaps your place on the hospital board should be reconsidered." The threat landed cold, silencing Sarah for a moment, though her eyes remained locked on Amelia, fury brimming. Her husband whispered, "Sarah, stay calm. They hold the power here." From the crowd, Mr. Morrison finally spoke, his voice gravelly yet firm. Enough. I have witnessed many trials steeped in prejudice, but I never thought I would see such a spectacle at a charity auction. It is shameful. Nods spread near him, and the air shifted. The murmurs no longer supported the Ashfords. They turned against them. They've gone too far. That young woman has been nothing but polite. Why humiliate her publicly? This is cruelty, nothing else. Meanwhile, on Lila's Instagram Live, the comments began to change direction. I think the Ashford family are the rude ones here. That girl is strong. She stays silent. We are witnessing modern-day social violence. Lila frowned, displeased for the first time. Tristan, look. Some of the comments, they're siding with her. Tristan smirked, lowering his voice. Don't worry. The more drama, the more views. Let them argue, as long as we stay the center. But Amelia, standing calm in the circle, had seen the shift. She recognized the difference in the eyes around her. She was no longer alone. While Clarissa still reveled in her power, beyond her a tide of opinion was turning. Then Robert's phone lit up again. Marcus Williams. 15 missed calls. This time, the buzzing was loud enough for those nearby to see the name on the screen. Murmurs rippled instantly. Marcus Williams, the CEO of Williams Tech. Why would he be calling him non-stop? Robert fumbled, shoving the phone back into his pocket, panic flashing across his face. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. Eyes turned toward Clarissa, Tristan, and Lila, not with curiosity, but with expectation. A quake was building, and at its center stood Amelia, unnervingly calm, the storm gathering around her. Clarissa's high heels struck the marble floor like a gavel. She stepped forward, her cold eyes sweeping across the hall as if commanding the entire crowd. Her diamond-clad hand lifted high, her voice ringing out like a verdict. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to end this charade. We cannot allow an impostor to ruin our auction. You all see the truth. She is nothing more than trash that slipped into a place she does not belong. Her words fell like a hammer, and the circle around Amelia tightened. Glittering gowns and tuxedos now resembled walls of steel, trapping her in a ring with no escape. The lights glinted off dozens of raised phones, transforming the ballroom into a live courtroom where every gaze was a judge and every recording was evidence. Amelia stood tall. Her hands still gripped the torn ticket fragments, her eyes bright and silent. But it was that silence that fueled Clarissa's rage. "This is not something to be handled in private," she snapped, her chin lifted toward James Patterson, head of security. "No cover-ups. We have all witnessed it. Public is the only way." The crowd stirred, many voices rising in agreement. "Yes, let her prove it here and now. If she's innocent, why stay silent? Transparency!" Tristan raised his phone high, his voice dripping with theatrics. "TikTok, this is the decisive moment. There will be no place left for imposters." The screen showed more than 120,000 people watching live. Lila, not to be outdone, swung her camera wide on Instagram Live. The entire Met Gala will remember this night. The Ashfords will never let commoners taint the elite. In the sea of jeers, a few voices rose in protest, faint but clear. Enough. There's no need for more humiliation. This is a charity gala, not a public shaming. Dr. Sarah Washington stood firm, her voice cutting through the noise. "I have never witnessed cruelty so blatant. A young woman who has done nothing wrong has been turned into your entertainment. I am ashamed to stand here." The hall quivered. Some faces shifted, eyes softening with doubt. But Clarissa whipped around, her tone sharp as glass. "Sarah, spare us your moralizing. We are protecting standards. If you cannot handle that, perhaps your seat on the hospital board should be reconsidered." The threat chilled the room. Sarah froze, though her eyes still blazed with fury. Then, from the corner of the hall, Mr. Morrison, husband of the esteemed judge, raised his gravelly voice. "You are making clowns of yourselves. I have recorded every word. Every time you called this girl trash, every mocking laugh. One day, you will face exactly what you created." A surge rippled through the crowd. Some guests lowered their phones, unease flickering in their eyes. But Tristan only grew more exhilarated, shouting into his camera. "Did you hear that? Even the old guard can't save her. This is the moment of society, content for the ages." As social media exploded, Robert Ashford's phone buzzed violently once again. This time, under the bright lights, the screen was clear. Marcus Williams, 17 missed calls. A few nearby guests caught sight and whispered, "Marcus Williams? The CEO of Williams Tech? Why would he be calling Robert non-stop?" Robert's face drained of color as he shoved the phone back into his pocket. But the seed of suspicion had been planted. Eyes turned toward Amelia, no longer just seeing an imposter, but a mystery. Amelia closed her eyes briefly, taking a deep breath. When she opened them, her gaze was razor sharp. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough to send a chill through those who noticed. Her calm was not that of defeat, but of someone ready to expose everything. The ballroom had no idea that in only minutes they would witness a reversal so shattering that the very phones in their hands would become evidence of their own condemnation. The crystal lights cut across Amelia's face like a blade as the circle closed tighter. Clarissa Ashford smiled in triumph, raising her jeweled hand like a director calling the final scene. "James, escort her out. We've been patient enough." Applause and cheers rippled through the crowd. Tristan shouted into his phone, his voice gleeful. "This is history in the making, everyone. Watch as the imposter gets thrown out of the Met." His TikTok screen surged past 150,000 live viewers. But Amelia did not move. She tightened her grip on the torn ticket in her hand, then slowly reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. Without looking at Clarissa or James Patterson, she dialed a number. The sound echoed through the hushed hall. Beep, beep. Then a connection. Amelia lifted the phone to her ear, her voice slicing through the silence. "Hello, Dad? I'm still at the Met Museum. And I think you should hear exactly what the Ashford family says about our community." The hall froze. Every eye, every camera turned to her. Clarissa faltered, the smile slipping from her lips. Amelia spoke louder, ensuring the entire room could hear. "I'm here with Clarissa, Robert, Tristan, and Lila Ashford. They tore up the Williams Foundation's invitation and called it fake. They called me trash, unworthy of being here." Dr. Harper, standing closest, stared at her tablet with trembling hands. Her fingers scrolled frantically through the sponsorship list until she stopped, her face paling. Williams Foundation, Marcus Williams, CEO of Williams Tech, platinum table, $100,000. My God, she whispered, eyes wide. Those nearby heard her, their expressions shifting to shock. Tristan's TikTok stream kept rolling, capturing every reaction. Comments exploded. Marcus Williams, the founder of Williams Tech? No way, she's his daughter. The Ashfords are finished. Robert Ashford's face turned ashen. 17 missed calls from Marcus Williams burned in his mind. The very partner with whom he was meant to sign a $750 million deal the next morning. The pieces fell into place, crushing him like a verdict delivered from above. Marcus Williams, he muttered, drained of color. It really is Marcus Williams. Whispers spread like wildfire. Guests reached for their phones, searching frantically. Screens lit up with the truth. Marcus Williams, CEO and founder of Williams Tech Corporation, net worth $12.7 billion, ranked among Forbes' richest Americans. A woman live streaming nearly dropped her phone. A fashion blogger sank into her chair, pale as a ghost. Amelia's voice cut through once more, colder, clearer. They said I should be dragged out before I embarrassed them. They turned me into entertainment for social media. They didn't know I was your daughter. For a moment, it felt as though the entire hall stopped breathing. Those who had laughed now dropped their heads in shame. Those who streamed live scrambled to shut their feeds down. But it was far too late. Every insult, every cruel word had been recorded. Hundreds of thousands had already witnessed it. Tristan fumbled with his phone, desperate to end the TikTok stream, but his trembling fingers slipped, accidentally filming his own face up close, pale and panicked. The comments erupted. He can't even look straight now. This is the twist of a lifetime. This isn't a joke anymore. This is a live downfall. Clarissa clawed at Robert's arm, whispering frantically. No, it can't be. This has to be a lie. There's no way. But then Dr. Harper's voice rang out, shaking but firm. She's telling the truth. This is Amelia Williams, daughter of Marcus Williams. I have the full sponsorship records right here. A shockwave ripped through the ballroom. Phones swung instantly toward the Ashfords, capturing them not as judges, but as the accused. Amelia lowered her phone, her voice calm and steady. Tonight, everyone has seen who the Ashfords truly look down upon when they think no one important is watching. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Some guests slipped quietly out, others kept recording, their hands trembling as they realized they were witnessing a moment that would be etched into the history of New York high society. And the Ashfords, who only moments ago had mocked her, now understood. The circle they built around Amelia was not a stage for her humiliation, but an execution ground for their own arrogance. The murmurs had not yet faded when the great doors of the hall swung open, the sound reverberating like thunder in a windless sky. Every phone turned in unison toward the entrance. Marcus Williams appeared, towering over 6'2", broad-shouldered in a charcoal Tom Ford suit. He did not simply walk. He advanced. Behind him came two assistants, a lawyer, and with them a silence so heavy it consumed the entire hall. Clarissa Ashford froze, her hand clutching her husband's arm until it blanched. Tristan and Lila instinctively shrank behind Robert, who once commanded the heights of finance, but now looked like a schoolboy caught red-handed. Marcus did not glance at the crowd. He walked straight ahead, his eyes resting on Amelia. "Daughter," he said, his deep voice resonating through the room. "Are you all right?" Amelia nodded. "I'm fine, Dad. I just received a lesson tonight about who society thinks deserves to exist in this room." Marcus turned to the Ashford family, his gaze cold, stripping away every layer of pretense. "Robert," he began, his tone calm but sharper than steel. "Tomorrow morning, we have a signing worth $750 million, remember? A deal your company is relying on to survive." Robert forced a nervous smile, his voice shaking. "Marcus, please let me explain. This is all a misunderstanding." "Silence!" Marcus cut him off, raising his hand like a judge delivering a command. The entire hall held its breath. "I don't need excuses. Instead, hear the numbers. Ashford Industries, total debt, $1.2 billion. Stock price down 73% in the past year. Last quarter's losses, $89 million. Without me, your company has 67 days before collapse. Isn't that true?" Robert's face drained of color, his head nodding furiously as though pulled by invisible strings. The hall erupted with shock. The numbers Marcus revealed, confidential and never reported, struck like a death sentence. Clarissa tried to intervene, her voice trembling. "Marcus, you cannot use business to threaten my family. This is an auction." Marcus snapped his head toward her, his voice like ice. "This is no longer an auction. This is a tribunal. And you, madam, along with your husband and children, are the ones who made it so." Behind him, Marcus's lawyer handed a tablet to his assistant, who read aloud with sharp precision. "Tristan Ashford's TikTok, 4 videos tonight, totaling over 340,000 views. Content includes calling Amelia Williams trash, labeling her delusional, mocking her as unworthy of high society. Lila Ashford's Instagram live, 40. 3,000 viewers, broadcasting the destruction of the invitation and calling security to expel her. And Mrs. Clarissa Ashford, recorded tearing the ticket and calling Amelia trash in front of 200 witnesses. The room exploded with gasps and whispers, phones lifted high, faces pale with horror. Marcus lowered his voice, each word striking like a gavel. "You did not make a mistake. You made a choice. You saw a young black woman in a simple dress and decided she was unworthy. You filmed, you live-streamed, you turned humiliation into entertainment. You thought no one important was watching, but I was here, and the entire world is here." The whispers surged. "Oh my God, it's all recorded. The Ashfords, they're finished." Robert reached out desperately toward Marcus. "Marcus, don't let personal matters destroy business. Thousands of my employees are counting on that contract." Marcus's eyes bore into his, stern and unyielding. "You should have thought of your employees before your family publicly humiliated my daughter. You should have thought of them before your wife wielded donations as a weapon, before your children broadcast cruelty for views." Silence smothered the room. Only the faint buzz of Tristan's phone remained, his live stream still running, now showing 127,000 people watching. The world was witnessing the Ashfords stripped bare in their own palace of power. Amelia's voice cut through, firm and resolute for the first time. Tonight, the truth is clear, but the question remains. The Ashford family must decide, will it be destruction or change? The hall was silent. Every eye, every phone was fixed on the Ashfords, who had fallen from their throne of power into the depths of humiliation. Tristan kept his head down, his fingers trembling as he tried to end the TikTok stream. But the screen flickered stubbornly. 137,000 people were still watching live. Lila clutched her phone, her face pale, her lips quivering as if she might cry. Clarissa forced herself to stand tall, but her hands twisted together until her knuckles whitened. Robert stood frozen, sweat staining his shirt, staring at Amelia, the young woman his family had called trash only minutes before, now the very person holding the fate of his company in her hands. Amelia drew a deep breath, her voice cutting through the air, sharp and clear. The Ashford family has shown everyone the truth. When you believe there are no consequences, you choose to humiliate, to wield power, to trample with money. But tonight, everything has changed. The question is, will you continue to destroy, or will you change? Clarissa burst out. What do you want? Money? We can. Marcus Williams raised his hand, silencing them with a voice like ice. It is not about money. Money cannot buy back dignity once lost, but it can buy the chance to make things right if you truly dare to change. Amelia nodded, her eyes blazing with resolve. She lifted the torn ticket fragments high, like evidence. I have 4 conditions. First, the Ashford family must issue a public apology right here in front of every witness and the hundreds of thousands watching online. Second, Ashford Industries must establish a $10 million fund to support organizations fighting discrimination. Third, every member of the board and senior management must complete training on bias and equity. Fourth, the company must undergo quarterly audits for diversity and transparency. The room was still. These were not just punishments. They were a public sentence, forcing the Ashfords to stand before a mirror and confront the darkness within themselves. Tristan whispered, his voice cracking. This is destruction. Lila's eyes brimmed with tears. Social media will tear us apart. Robert pressed a hand to his forehead, dazed, scanning the hall filled with hundreds of raised phones. He understood. There was no escape. Marcus looked straight at him, his tone firm. If you refuse, your company will collapse in 67 days. If you accept, at least you have a chance to prove Ashford Industries can change. Clarissa shook her head, her voice trembling. We cannot disgrace ourselves like this, Robert. Our family is a symbol of class. Class? Amelia cut in, her gaze locking on her. Class is not measured by the diamonds on your wrist. It is measured by how you treat another human being when you believe they are beneath you. The word struck like a slap. Clarissa froze, her lips moving but no sound escaping. Robert swallowed hard, then nodded, his voice breaking. We accept all of the conditions. A wave of murmurs swept the room. Some guests exchanged looks, others nodded in approval, while many lifted their phones to capture the historic moment. Thousands of comments flooded TikTok and Instagram. Legendary. Justice served in the moment. Never seen a takedown this big. The Ashfords bowing to justice. Marcus turned to his daughter, pride shining in his eyes. Then he faced Robert once more, his voice still cold but deliberate. My board meeting has been postponed until tomorrow. You have 18 hours to prove this will not be empty words. The hall was silent again, every breath audible in the heavy air. The Ashfords, who once declared themselves the pinnacle of high society, now stood with bowed heads on a public stage, forced to admit guilt and accept the path of redemption. Amelia clenched the torn ticket fragments, a faint smile flickering across her lips, equal parts pride and calm. Tonight, she had not only reclaimed her dignity, she had ignited a revolution within a world of privilege that had long believed money could buy silence. That night, the Grand Hall of the Met Museum witnessed not only a stunning unmasking, but the birth of a symbol. Amid gowns of splendor, glittering crystal glasses, and proud smiles, the truth was laid bare. Real power does not reside in diamonds or family names, but in human dignity. The Ashford family lost everything in a matter of minutes. They thought they could use money, prestige, and social media to crush a young woman. But those very tools became the evidence that condemned them, broadcast live to hundreds of thousands who watched their downfall. Amelia never needed to scream, never needed to defend herself with words. She simply stood tall, calm within the circle, letting the truth speak for itself. And when she did speak, the entire false system of power crumbled like a castle of sand. The story of that night is not just a lesson for one family, but a warning for every organization and every person. Never underestimate someone simply because they appear different from what you expect. Because you never know. They may hold your future in their hands. If you believe dignity matters more than money, if you believe respect belongs to everyone, leave a like for this story. Do not forget to subscribe to follow more dramatic journeys, where truth will always be revealed and justice will always find its voice. And before you go, leave a short comment. Dignity first. Because sometimes a single reminder is enough to change the world.